How you, girl?
My face was like, hey.
Right. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of In the Divas Den. I know you guys missed us last week, but we just needed a second to just collect ourselves, and breathe and woosah, because it's been a heavy couple of weeks. And I know typically we use this as a platform to essentially just make sure that we can just take our minds off of the seriousness. But these last couple of weeks, the topics have been so important that we just couldn't just bypass them, So we will get back to some of the lighter topics. Hopefully next week we can have something a little bit lighter. But tonight we definitely have to mention what has been going on in the news. And of course, we can't get all of it in 30 to 40 minutes. But we do want to talk about some of the heavier topics that a lot of us have been discussing online. But first and foremost, before we get into that, we got to do our check-in. Precious, how you feeling, girl?
I'm actually, in spite of everything, feeling pretty good. Smile on my face, got life, got breath in my body. I'm good. How are you?
I am better. I definitely, you guys saw on the show, I really was upset 2 weeks ago. And I'm getting there. I'm not 100%, especially with, some of the things that are happening, but I'm getting there. And I think something that really helps is just counting your blessings. Like you said, Precious, you're breathing, you're here, you still have another day to make a difference, or even just, reconnect with yourself. So I'm better. But we want to hear from you guys, of course, as always. Check us out in the comments. Let us know. We didn't see y'all last week, so let us know how you doing this week. Are you good? Is everything okay? Something you want to talk about? Hit us up. We are here for you. But we definitely do need to get into topics. So Precious, you want to say?
Oh, it cut up. Just we will. Okay. So start off. The most recent topic that happened, and forgive me if I say this incorrectly, Toyin Salau. Toyin Salau was found. She actually went missing on June 6th, and they were looking for her. She's an activist, Black Lives Matter movement, very vocal, in your face, because she was all about this movement. And unfortunately, they found her body along with another victim's body. And it is said that it may have been a kidnapping. They're not exactly sure what happened. Also, Rayshard Brooks. I know. I just remember seeing the Wendy's on fire. And I thought that even though we probably weren't the ones who set the Wendy's on fire, it was a physical representation of how everyone was feeling.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, for Toyin, it breaks my heart because just reading her story, not only was she sexually assaulted once, but I think she was also a victim of human trafficking.
Right. She was bad living conditions, so she was in places at the time that she went missing. Yeah.
Exactly. And she was seeking assistance from someone who she thought was a safe person to take her to the church. I think that's where she was seeking refuge. And it turned and went so bad, so wrong, so quickly. I mean, tragic because she was only 19. She was just a baby. And for her to be
with 75.
Yeah.
So that makes you wonder, what was this about?
Exactly.
To have that vast difference in ages, like what really happened?
Exactly. Yeah. Supposedly, the guy that they have in custody, he had a history of battery and assaulting women. But like you said, I don't see the connection between a 19-year-old and a 75-year-old.
Right.
But it's just sad on both parts. Sad for the 75-year-old woman, sad for Toyin. And I definitely think that it's something that needs to be mentioned, because unfortunately, when something happens to a Black woman, we tend to sweep that under the rug, or we don't have the open and honest conversation about it, because sometimes we're just not protected. We should be, but we're not as protected. And usually we are the ones to be vocal. And at this moment, we need the help of everyone to make sure that we are bringing light to the situation. And anyone else who may be a victim of physical assault or any sort of injustice or, anything along those lines. So I don't want her name to be forgotten. The same thing with Breonna Taylor. We need to make sure that these are people that we are discussing. And also with Rayshard Brooks, his story is just tragic, absolutely tragic. If you have or have not seen the video, once again, I no longer have any interest in watching videos of seeing people be killed by the police officers, but I knew enough to know that he did not deserve to die. Especially when you fell asleep in your own car that had not moved, you didn't strike anybody, you didn't crash your car, nothing would permit or nothing, it wasn't necessary for the situation to escalate the way that it did. And to know that this happened the day before his daughter's birthday, and from what I've heard in the video, he was responsive, he was coherent, and even said that, he would walk to his sister's house, but it escalated into something that it didn't have to. And I hear so much talk on social media about what he should not have done, what he should have just complied. He should have. But how many names do we have that are now hashtags that did comply?
Even so, how about we talk about the officer's actions? How about we talk about he was open firing in a mass group of people in a drive-through? He could have shot anybody. He could have killed anybody. He was not rational in that moment. How about we talk about what he should have done, not what the citizen who is not trained for an firearm and sees one and is also not, he wasn't inebriated, but this has nothing to do with anything. He was sleeping in his car. Imagine being woken up. You got a gun in your face. You're trying to figure out what's going on. You're not even in your right mind. You're just trying to figure out what's happening. And that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to process what was going on. And he didn't have a chance to because he was shot and killed. And with Toyin, the police failed her too because her killer was very violent and released on the 1st. Had he not been released on the 1st, she might still be here. So all of this negligence within law enforcement is what's causing all of these things to happen. So stop talking about the victims, about what they should have done, what they could have done, because if you would have put yourself in that instance, you probably would pee your pants and not know what to do.
Exactly. And I just had this conversation with a coworker. I'm like, anytime I see a police officer, my heart drops, and I can't fault him in what he did because I would be scared too. In that situation, you don't know if you're going to make it out alive or not. And he did not make it out alive. What his greatest fear was ended up happening, where you were shot in the back, you died, and you were trying everything possible to avoid it. If you wanted to be a good police officer to protect and serve as you supposedly do, then why did you not make sure that man made it where he needed to go? Why didn't you at least say, you know what, well, you seem a little inebriated. Let's go ahead. Let's take your keys away from you. Let's put you in the back of the car or whatever and get you where you need to go. Or we'll wait, call somebody, and we'll have them, wait right here until you can get in the car with someone else. I mean, there were so many solutions to a simple problem opposed to it just escalating to the way that it did.
Right. Leave them sleeping. How many times have we pulled over and slept in the car? How many times? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just so unnecessary.
Exactly.
Like, do you not have anything to do? Like, are you bored?
Exactly.
Do you want to switch careers? Just switch careers. Don't take people's lives just for the heck of it. Like,
exactly. And now it's now gotten to the point where, are you a police officer just so you can, kill a Black person? I mean, because there was no reason for that. There was absolutely no reason. And now that there was talks about the cop allegedly had kicked and stood on his shoulders after he had died, and they waited 2 minutes before they even decided to call, for any sort of assistance. So it's just like, now you can't tell me you didn't have motive. You knew what you were doing, you knew what you wanted to do, and you ended up doing it. And how many more are there like you? And how long is this going to continue? And then when you sit here and you judge protesters for getting angry or getting upset, or for people who are just going off, and you can't even fathom how angry these people are, because we're tired. We're tired of seeing this. Absolutely tired of seeing this. Which brings us to our next topic, which is a little bit lighter, of Karens. I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to social media, but let me tell you something. Our people are tired and we do not have time for Karens. And for whatever reason, even when we are minding our Black ass business and living in our Black boy joy and Black girl magic, there is a Karen who has to come and just stop all of that. One of the videos that I witnessed was a white woman who decided to stop a man who was spray painting Black Lives Matter on his property. Her and her husband decided to tell him that, you shouldn't be doing that. We know the owner's here. This is not your property. Meanwhile, that man lived there and continued to have an argument with him about what he shouldn't do on his property. Well, needless to say, not only are we tired of Karens, but companies are tired of Karens. And I'm glad to see that when people think it's okay to bother somebody or call the cops on somebody or essentially harass someone, that consequences are happening. So the woman who was in the video and in the picture that you just saw, her husband had been fired because they're just like, we're not going to tolerate this. We don't have time to tolerate this. And you essentially just mind your business. Just mind your business. That's all we're asking you to do. Mind your business. There was a young Black man in a video, I think it made it to the Shade Room and Baller Alert, where some woman told him to go back to Oakland or some city, predominantly Black city. And he just completely lost it on her. But who are you to tell me what to do, where to go, and how I need to live my life?
Right. And how do you know that's where I'm from? How do you, but I lost it laughing when he told her she had old people spit on her shirt. That was funny.
We don't have time. We don't have time. Nobody has time for that. Nobody has time for any of this. Uh-oh. I think Precious girl.
I'm back. I'm here.
Okay. Girl, Karen was about to get you, honey.
Yes, they're trying to shut us down. The Karens is somewhere with the internet trying to shut it down, y'all.
Karen's trying to get you.
Televised, okay? All right, televised. But now is the time to get people together.
Yes.
Now is the time to not be shy, to not be coy. You need to speak your mind. If somebody says a joke and it's not funny, stay there and look at them with this face. And then ask them, why is it funny?
Exactly.
So that way they can sit in their awkwardness and realize that what they're doing is not correct.
Hello.
Stop coddling other people's feelings that don't give a damn about yours.
Girl, let me tell you. And if you need to snatch a Karen, I'm telling you.
They got slapped in was that New Mexico or Nevada? She got slapped.
Girl,
she told the Native Americans how to go back to Mexico, and she said,
"Nobody has
time saying it was mental illness." No, that's not.
No. We're not doing that. We're not playing that card. You knew what you were doing. And speaking of knowing what you're doing, let's quickly talk about these companies who are standing in solidarity with Black people. Okay. I hate to be this Black person. I'm like, because I feel like it's like, okay, girl, like give people a break. But I'm just like, I appreciate the messages. I appreciate you standing in solidarity. I appreciate you being brave enough to say something. But I also feel like at this point, are Black lives starting to become a trend and a gimmick to certain companies where you're too afraid to lose our money and you would rather say something and make sure that you're pandering to us opposed to not saying anything. What do you think, Precious?
I think specifically with the Starbucks, that was exactly what it was, because they said you can't come into work anywhere with any Black Lives Matter stuff on. Then when they heard the outcry, oh no, it's okay. It's okay, you can wear it. Nah, it's too late now. You already, first of all, you was already canceled that time when you called the police on those two Black men who were just sitting there doing business. You was already canceled back then. Now we're gonna re-cancel you again for this. Exactly. Because now you shut down every single store in the country for race relation talks and training, yet you still are tone deaf to what's happening. Girl, I do agree that there are a lot. When I saw Pokemon come out and say,
yes, Pokemon.
was like, everybody from Pokemon to Nickelodeon having 8 minutes of silence. I was like, whoa, kids in here too. I mean, it's great that it's reaching. I hope that it does what it's meant to do as far as reaching people who normally would not have seen these messages, would not have paid attention to it because they live in their own little worlds.
Right.
That doesn't apply to them.
Right.
However, I do want to see the sincerity after this.
Exactly.
What's going to happen? Alex Ohanian, I think that's how you say his last name, Serena's husband, stepped down from his board because he recognized, okay, this is more powerful than me just making a statement. And he did it without her knowing. She found out like the rest of us did. So, yeah. So, I mean, what tangible changes are you going to make besides just making a statement or posting a black block on your Instagram?
Exactly. And that's where my question is, are we going to start diversifying these boardrooms? Are we going to start making sure that these agency and marketing agencies have Black people so we don't have messages where you have to recall because you didn't mean to offend anybody? Are you going to start making sure that you're not looking at people a certain type of way, discriminating against them for their skin color or for their hair or how they look? Like, that's what I want to see. The message is cool and all. I'm here for it, but I need to make sure that there's action behind these messages, and don't just treat us like the hot thing, and then a couple months from now, it's like, oh, well, I know we said we were standing in solidarity, but we just gonna make sure that we just gonna keep white people in the boardroom. I need change that way. I would rather you just be like, look, we'll just make our change. We don't have to make a statement because we know that we're going to make the changes and we're actively doing so.
Yeah. And let's be clear, we've always been the hot thing. Okay? We've always. Our culture is pop culture. So we've always been the hot thing.
Girl.
Oh, we got Mr. Shorley saying at this point it's either you with us or not. So yeah, most companies are saying they're with us. Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. Girl, look. But we do have to get to our guest today. I know that we are talking about a lot of important topics here and a lot of important stories that are hitting the news, but we seem to be losing light of the COVID pandemic. And people are starting to get really lax. I know here in Raleigh that they just implemented you have to wear your mask in public at Friday at 4 p.m. I think it is. But it still seems like people aren't taking it seriously. So that's why we wanted to invite our guest onto the show to give us some insight because she is dealing with this every single day and is seeing the severity of it all. So please welcome to our show, Miss Christa. Hey, girl.
Hey, girl.
How you doing, girl?
How are you?
Wait, that might be trademarked.
Oh, sorry. That makes me like it's a compliment.
Right? But thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it because I know that you are working hard, honey, and you need your rest. But I appreciate you making time for the Divas, especially for something as important as this. So let's jump right into it. I mean, just tell us what you have been experiencing and what you were seeing and give our audience some insight.
Well, I can say I'm here in Houston, Texas, and it has definitely, I'm sure people are starting to see the news about the current increase in the numbers down here and in a lot of other states that opened first. And unfortunately, a lot of it is due to opening so quickly and a lot of us not following the precautions that were set out when we said we were going to open and it's not being done. Around here, I would say it's about 1 in 7 people wearing masks when you go to places like Target or any place like that. It's very scary to see the instant lax that everyone is having about such a serious virus that shut down the country. I mean, we've never had anyone say, all right, you can't leave your house and you can't do this because you will possibly catch something that is fatal. And now that things are open, they're equating it to being over, and it's just not. Our numbers have gone up like 30% within a week. It's really outrageous just to watch how crazy the numbers are getting. And when you count what we call that incubation period of the virus of 14 days, it goes back to around Memorial Day weekend when everyone got excited. Oh, things are opening, let's go. And they went out and it probably wasn't necessary. I've been telling people, like, it's the hot dogs and hamburgers, it's really worth it when it comes to wanting to get out so bad. And I understand the mental health aspect of it, staying cooped in the house for so long. But if you're not going to go out with the precautions that you need to, is it worth it? Exactly. We don't want to go backwards. We're trying so hard to go forward. When this all started, everyone said, well, maybe by the summer. And that could have possibly been, but that ain't happening.
Right. And especially since you said that, things are opening back up, people are not, wearing their masks or not washing their hands. But since you deal with it firsthand, what are some of the symptoms or what are some of the things that you're seeing?
Most recently, what people I know who have tested positive for it is the no taste, the no smell. That's pretty common across the board as one of the initial symptoms that everyone is experiencing. If you are, like you hear on the news, if you have other issues and medical histories that have underlying issues, yes, you're going to have a serious bout with COVID, but there's no cure. Mm-hmm. That's a fact for everyone. So if you're 100% healthy and you get it, yes, the chances of you surviving it are a lot higher than someone who has a previous health condition. But again, I go back to, is it worth risking getting something that you don't really know for sure that there's a medication that can heal you from it?
Right.
That's not really something you want to go for. The worst cases definitely are people on ventilators, people dying. We've had patients that were traveling, got the virus, can't go back even to the states or countries where they live in. So not only are you just alone because you can't have visitors in the hospital, but you're really alone in a place you'd have no family or friends even within distance. So it's a really scary position to be in when you think about possibly being hospitalized and your friends and family will not be able to be there with you. You're alone. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Lord, for anybody who's Christian, and that's all you have. Mm-hmm. And I've been working in healthcare now, treating patients who are very sick. I work with immunocompromised patients, and family support is so important to recovery. Mm-hmm. We saw the patients when the family couldn't visit them for them being in the hospital for reasons that weren't COVID related. And their decline in their progression of healing definitely was affected. So the risk that we're taking by not treating this as something that can affect everyone on so many multiple levels, it's very careless. It makes it seem that, oh, this is scary and oh my gosh, we don't want it. Thank you for everyone for doing all you can. But now I'm out and I want to go party and get a section. Like, backtrack a little bit.
Right.
Say the sentence out loud and tell me how it sounds.
Right. And I mean, being an essential worker and, seeing it every single day for the most part, how does that weigh heavily on your mental? Like, how are you taking this, or what are your fears? Because you are potentially in there where you could be exposed and possibly, contract it.
Yeah. I mean, we now with the numbers in Texas going up, we're having to get tested a lot quicker than it was in the early stages of this. I have to now go for like my second test. So the test itself is not fun. I won't lie to anyone who's listening and say, oh, it's not that bad. No, it's uncomfortable, but it is, part of the deal. And anytime that you hear you've taken care of a patient who, it turns out they were positive, you're definitely thinking, oh God, did I get it? But we have to depend on, the precautions that we practice every single day. And that's why they have to be habitual. and not just, well, we're doing it for this moment and then it'll be over. It's not. So for healthcare workers, that's the challenge, and it is for everybody. I mean, when this started, it was okay, be careful, 6 feet apart, all of that. But everyone starts to come out of that intense, regimen. And it's hard to stay vigilant on that, even as a healthcare worker. I mean, at times I'm like, oh, shoot, I got to make sure I don't forget my mask. It happens. We're human. But keeping in mind just how bad it was. I mean, I'm originally from New York. New York was horrible. And I'm sure a lot of people saw that happen. And if you're seeing at your state, oh, it wasn't that bad, thank goodness it didn't get that bad. But it can. And we're starting to see that now with these states that are having these reopenings on top of everyone not doing what they could do to help prevent spreading it. Wash your hands, wear a mask, 6 feet apart, no crowds. It's not hard,
right?
But it is hard after being in the house for 3 months.
So. Exactly. Do you feel like we opened up too early?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that we opened up too quickly. Maybe is a better way to say it. I think if you went from phase 1 to 2 in less than 14 days, but then you say quarantine for 14 days, if you think you had it, are we seeing what is working before we go to another phase? I think that's not being considered as a big picture. A lot of it, of course, is financially driven because these businesses have taken so much of a hit and employees have lost their jobs. But if we are going to equate that to human lives, then what are we saying?
Exactly. And being as though, like I said, you're in it, you're there. When businesses are saying like, we're doing everything we can, we're wiping things down, we're switching out, our ventilation systems or whatever have you, they just say that they're doing everything that they possibly think that they can do. But then you have people like you who are working in the healthcare field and you're just like, okay, like we may not have done that, or there may not have been a need to do it. Do you feel like that stuff actually even works? I mean, or is it just like, it is what it is?
That's a tricky question. That's a great question. I think that if you have 10 people who all are going to come in, wash their hands, wear a mask, sit, social distance, as recommended, then you'll be safe. It's no different than me caring for a COVID patient who wore their mask and I wiped everything down and cleaned it and didn't touch my eyes and didn't, when you take the precautions, it's proven that you can remain safe. Okay. But it just takes one. And this is a very, very fast spreading virus. So if that one person didn't wash their hands or came in and didn't have a mask, now you're starting to open that door of 100% safety up. And you can't see it. So I don't know if you have COVID. I'm just, again, going off the hope that you're being as safe as I am. And I've had to talk with family members, if you're going in groups, I know people have started to kind of do outside gatherings and things like that, which is your prerogative. I've gone and sat with friends. We've sat far apart outside, and that felt good. It felt good to see someone, not through a screen. But I knew that they were people who were treating the seriousness of this the way that I was. And if you're in a mixed group, you're in that in-between phase of, I'm not really 100% sure. And you don't want to break your home. If you're not living alone, if you live with a spouse, children, once it's in the house, now you're, quarantined when you're worrying about the kids, I don't risk it. Right. I have a few choice places where I go, few choice people who I see. Don't wash my hands and we're going to be on the phone.
Hello. I said good day. Now, when it comes to someone being exposed and contracting COVID, I know that they say you're supposed to quarantine yourself for 14 days. Do you feel like 14 days is long enough, or give it a couple more days before you're ready to resurface?
According to the data that they tell us, they meaning CDC, hospital presidents, and facilities that are trickling down the information to us, 14 days is our quarantine. So if, say, a healthcare worker thinks that they got it or has contracted the virus, you're on a 14-day quarantine. After that, it's kind of a self-assessment, I think, on do you think it's safe to go to work? But if you're still sick, and this is kind of the policy now for everything, if you're sick, you stay home. Doesn't mean you have COVID. Just don't come in even spreading any kind of germ that would weaken anyone's immune system, anything like that. So if you're outside the 14 days and your COVID bout was one that was pretty heavy symptomatically, then and you're still coughing, let's be smart, I think everyone needs to really think a little bit smarter than they are giving themselves credit for. I've heard stories of people saying, I don't need to change my mask because when I lay it on the dashboard, the heat cooks out all the bacteria.
What?
Okay. Real people, real stories. So it requires, let's just think about this. 2 months ago, people were dying. Hospital lobbies were full of people who couldn't even get a hospital bed. And now you want to go have a party in a club and group people in and not require at least the bare minimum of precautions. I think if states or these businesses were to at least say, like some, no mask, no service, or really enforce these social guidelines that they're putting out there. But I mean, malls down here are just free for all. The mall, which to me is like a hard rain.
Exactly.
But, if that's being allowed, where you have even small children going in and, touching things and everything.
Yeah. What's your advice for those that feel like this is a hoax? It's not real.
Get out my hair, breakfast.
Or anyone around me. So this is infringing on my rights as an American. I don't have to wear a mask. What is your advice as a healthcare professional to those stupid people?
Well, there's something called HIPAA where we can't actually tell you names of patients and things like that. But if the chest x-rays, I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And a patient who is healthy looks one way. A patient who has been diagnosed with COVID looks totally different. Some of the worst x-rays that I've ever seen. That's minuscule compared to the level of care that it can get to. I don't see why anyone would choose or be skeptical about this virus and believe a lot of other things that are being said in the media, especially when it comes to healthcare. So death is not something anyone can make up. If you had a loved one, I'm sure at this point now, everyone knows someone who had a grandpa or whatever, and they unfortunately died from the virus. They're not here to tell you, oh no, it was a joke, baby. I didn't have it. Unfortunately, we're not saying that. And remember, every number that we see that's saying, well, these are cases and deaths from the COVID virus. Those are deaths that we tested the patient and we know that they had the COVID virus. There could be a slew of other numbers out there that we didn't test them, but they could have had it. I know a lot of people are even saying, I think I had it a while ago. And that's how the antibodies are showing that, oh yeah, I was exposed to it before it broke. Well, how many deaths have we not been able to count because we didn't even have the proper COVID testing to see really how bad this was? And if I'm saying to help spread this and save the lives of not necessarily people you don't know, but people you do know by putting on a mask. I'm not telling you to walk on broken glass.
Exactly.
Or do anything that's really detrimental. It's uncomfortable, but would you rather be in the hospital or saying goodbye to your loved one on a FaceTime because you can't go see them?
Exactly.
I'd put on a mask. I'd stand 6 feet apart from someone.
Exactly. Now, can you, you touched on it just a little bit, but when people are referring to the antibodies or the testing for the antibodies, I know some people are concerned because they feel like, it's relatively new, is it something that really is going to show, accurate information, or is this something that, people who feel like they may have gotten it should go and get tested? How do you feel about the antibodies and all of that?
I personally did have the antibody testing, and it's a blood test. It was kind of, I think for me, just, curiosity. Like, I wonder, especially when you started to hear a lot of people I know were saying, I think I had that 4 months ago. I think I had it 6 months ago, and things like that. This is a new virus, which is why it is ever changing, the information and the way we treat it to keep you safe versus not safe. It's all new. Making it up as we go along. I've told my family that. But there's always going to be a false positive possibility in any test. That's the flu test, the strep test. False positives is a truth behind science, behind medicine. So to go and always kind of lead with skepticism sometimes can really hold us back from the progression of getting to things that we need, such as vaccines. So having an antibody test is not going to kill you. Again, it's just some blood. You've gotten blood work, I'm sure, for other things. And we are hoping and that all this information that you get on yourself is credible, just like it is any other time you've gotten a physical or, x-rays and things like that. It's helpful to know because then you are aware of where your body is. Doesn't mean that you should not follow all the precautions, but it at least gives you some ideas of being aware of your family, who you live with, and how to protect them and yourself. So,
and we actually have a question. She said, what is the worst case that you have seen, and what about children?
Worst case scene was a patient on a ventilator who was not from America. And they are still being treated, thankfully, but just seeing and really understanding that the loneliness is tough. The loneliness is really hard to watch and think about and reflect on. And the struggling to breathe, and they have no idea where they are, who's in the room. When will they be better? Will they get better? But I think for me, just knowing that there was a patient who had their family member thousands and thousands of miles away, not just 20 miles up the road or something like that. That was really rough. And children, funny you say that. I teach children dance, and I've even had to start trying to take extra precautions with not teaching them in person if I think that I'm at risk right now. So children can get it. That's for sure. We've seen children come in, can't breathe. That was another rough one. 2 little girls. But children should wear a mask. I know when it started, they were saying, if the child is under 7, I think I heard some made up number, I swear. It just come up with it. But if your child, you wouldn't want them to catch the flu if it was flu season. So yeah, anybody can get it. How it progresses is time will tell, based on your medical history and God. But anybody can get it. Children are not the easiest to understand social distancing sometimes because they're kids. And these kids have been in the house for 3 months and they want to hug their friends. And that is really hard to explain to them and get them to enforce. And if you're wondering about like, well, how do you get kids to be around and start these physical activities with them? Look at us as the adults where we're at in phase 2. How are we doing?
Exactly.
And the 5-year-olds are going to do better?
Exactly. And we do have one more question because we know that you're a busy girl, honey. You need to get your rest. Do you think that children should return to school?
The vaccine is probably what I think would be the 100% closest to 100% safest route. But we've already seen that nobody wants to wait. If it were my child, I can just say that, and I'm not a mom, but if it were my child, I would look into other options because it takes one. And nobody wants to start hearing about babies and children in elementary schools and junior high schools and then hundreds of children specifically dying from this. I think that would really rock us into an emotional state even more than we already are. And it's tough, and I don't know how they would do it. But if you can, I mean, if you can map out a really good plan that can be stuck to for 9 months at school, sure. But are we trying it, and are we trying it out on kids? So homeschool.
Right.
Homeschooling is hard. I give my credit to parents. It's been hard watching kids.
I think a lot of that is coming out of frustration from the parents of the 6 months that they had is thrown out the window now.
Right.
I know. I've seen parents say, I'm driving
a lot of good points there, girl. A lot of points. And if you guys still are having right.
Come back to us, Kim. You look pretty in the picture though. Come back.
She does.
Yes, thank y'all for staying with us. If you have any other comments, feel free to let them come through.
Well, am I still not there? Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Am I back?
Yes.
Yes, Teddy Riley. It's Karen, Nelly, everybody. They said you won't finish the show successfully. But Christa, thank you so much. You are so awesome. I can't thank you enough because I know that you are super, super busy. You have a lot on your plate. You're dealing with a lot. So sending you all the positive energy, all the air hugs, girl, if you need to talk, you got my phone number now. Just hit me up. Got you.
I will.
I got you. And if you guys still need more convincing, you might want to follow her at Kenyatta J, just in case you're like, well, I'm not going to take COVID seriously, so she can let you know even more how foolish you're being. So wear your mask, 6 feet, stay apart, wash your hands, wash your damn hands.
With soap.
All of that.
Some people think something's enough with soap.
Exactly. But thank you so much, girl. We love you.
Thank you.
You are the best. You are awesome. All right, girl, how you feeling?
I'm good. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah.
You know what came across my mind? The irony of that we all went through and all of us were affected by a virus that we didn't ask for, that just landed. And the major symptom was you cannot breathe. And the irony that we watched this man die on TV on video saying he cannot breathe at the hands of somebody else on purpose. The disrespect.
Girl.
The disrespect.
Girl.
Ooh. Ooh, the reckoning is coming, y'all. I feel it. I felt it in my bones.
Girl,
I got chills off that. It's
girl. Listen, look, don't send me to that place again, girl. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't do it. But thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. You guys are awesome. We will definitely be back next week. Hopefully we will not have more hard-hitting topics. We can kind of have something a little bit lighter so we can get back to laughing again, because I think everybody at this state needs a really good laugh. Thank you guys. Thank you. You're awesome. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.